Chapter 6:14. On the 15th day of the third month, the scorching temperature of the Crimson Abyss finally began to cool down slowly. However, there was still a cloud of smoke rising into the sky. Within the cloud of smoke, beams of golden energy slowly gathered and flew towards Lin Muyu's body as if they were being summoned. They played on his legs, abdomen, and the rocks on the surface of his body. He was still in the state of slow petrification. At this moment, Lin Muyu had almost given up on all cultivation. He only wanted to try his best to collect everything that Qianyin had left behind in the Crimson Abyss. However, Lin Muyu could only collect the fragments of the celestial dragon crystal. What made him feel that something terrible had finally happened? In the Crimson Abyss, Qianyin's aura became fainter and fainter as time passed, to the extent that he almost couldn't catch it anymore. Rustle, rustle. The sound of footsteps came from the rock stratum that had solidified not long ago. A group of people walked out from the cloud of smoke. It was Feng Jixing, Qinyan, Weichou, Chuyao and the others. They had all arrived. As soon as she saw Lin Muyu's half-petrified appearance, Chuyao couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat. Hot tears flowed out of her eyes. She walked straight forward and hugged Lin Muyu's already hardened body. She wailed loudly. "You don't be like this. You..." Feng Jixing carried his wind cutter and walked forward with a grave expression. He frowned and said, Her Highness has already passed away. Why do you have to be like this? Besides, the Empire still needs you. The demon race has not been destroyed and the Iha nation is still in the ascendant. With Her Highness gone, the Empire needs someone to take charge. Although Yen has the Qin bloodline, he is still too young and inexperienced. You are the former Emperor's foster son and Her Highness Yin's brother. If you continue to sink like this, the Empire's future will be bleak. Heroes will rise up and we will enter a truly chaotic world. Lin Muyu slowly raised his head and glanced at Feng Jixing with his lifeless eyes. He replied in a very dull voice, Brother Feng, Xiao Yin was killed by Xiaoxi. I want to stay here with her. I want to do everything I can to find Xiao Yin's spirit. But, Feng Jixing frowned and said, if Her Highness Ying was still alive, she would definitely not want you to do this. You are the future ruler of the Empire, how can you waste your time here? Brother Feng, you don't understand. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. Streams of King's fighting flame appeared on the surface of his body, protecting his life force. He looked at Feng Jixing and then at Chuyao and said, From the day I met Xiao Yin, I knew that she was my destiny. I can't escape, I can't hide. I'll leave the Empire's matters to Brother Feng and Yen. I want to find Xiao Yin and bring her back. Brother. Qin Yan's tears rolled down. He knelt in front of Lin Muyu and said, Brother, when will you come back? How can General Feng and I support such a large empire? When I find Xiao Yin, I will naturally come back. Lin Muyu slowly closed his eyes and said, The poisonous air in the blood-red abyss is too strong. You should leave. Don't stay here and let the smoke damage your body. Chu Yao was the chief deacon of the Spirit Medicine Division. She naturally knew that the smoke in the blood-red abyss contained a strong poison. This was also one of the reasons why Lin Muyu's skin was black and his body was gradually turning to stone. But she had no choice. Just as Lin Muyu said, Qin Yin was his destiny. He had to stay here and could only stay here to search for Qin Yin's return. Weichou kicked the broken rocks on the ground. He was somewhat angry but didn't dare to explode. He said in a low voice, Darren, General Feng is leading 300,000 elite troops of Seven Seas City to attack Swift White Province's Sunset City. I am also leading the Longdan Army Camp to attack Sky Province. Soon, His Highness Qinyan will lead the Imperial Army to Tianshu Province to defend against the advanced troops of the demon race. Darren, I hope you wake up soon. Lin Muyu opened his eyes again and looked at Feng Jixing saying, Big Brother Feng, there are no remnants of Xiaoxi's aura in the blood-red abyss. I suspect that Xiaoxi is still alive. Help me find her. I want to ask Xiaoxi why she wanted to kill Xiao Yin and why she went back on the oath she made back then. I will. Feng Jixing took a deep breath and knelt down on one knee towards Lin Muyu. He cupped his fists and said, Since Your Highness Yu is temporarily unwilling to leave, then Feng Jixing and Qin Yan will lead the army to attack Lingnan and recover the lost land. I hope that Your Highness Yu will return soon. I will come see you again. Everyone go. Lin Muyu slowly closed his eyes. The smoke in the blood-red abyss once again slowly fell on his face and eyelashes. speeding up the process of his body turning into stone. Chu Yao stood up and wiped away her tears, saying, I will wait for your return in Lanyan City. Everyone left. Lin Muyu still maintained the posture of kneeling on one knee and holding the sword with one hand. The tattered cloak pieces that were blown away by the strong wind no longer moved. Instead, they fused with the stone and remained frozen in the air. In the surroundings, specks of faint golden starlight danced in the blood-red abyss. But in the end, they were all directed at Lin Muyu's hand that was holding the sword. Rays of golden light lingered around the star's sword and seeped into Lin Muyu's body. A few days later, thunder rumbled in the sky. Rays of golden light flickered in the sky above Bai Ling City. It was the oracle. No, it was the descent of the god's truth. Only the god of heaven could descend upon the mortal world with such an earth-shattering aura. The dark night sky was brightly illuminated. The smoke in the blood-red abyss was poisonous, so Bai Ling City had almost become a wasteland. People left their homeland one after another, but there were still some scavengers looking at the sky in the middle of the night. They were dumbfounded. They had never seen such a spectacle in their entire lives. A beautiful figure stepped on the clouds and arrived above the blood-red abyss step by step. It was a beautiful fairy. Her face was exquisite and flawless, her skin was white as cream and her figure was graceful. She could be said to be a peerless beauty. However, the pieces of soft armor that covered her body and the sharp sword in her hand let people know that this fairy was a sharp and unapproachable person. The person who came was Xiao, the #1 god emperor under the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Xiao's beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu, who was slowly petrifying in the blood-red abyss. She couldn't help but feel sad. She floated down and stepped into the blood-red abyss with golden oracle halos. The sound of her exquisite and small battle boots stepping on the rock stratum woke Lin Muyu up. "Who are you?" Lin Muyu asked indifferently. She wasn't moved by Xiao's powerful god emperor power. Xiao held her long sword and walked forward step by step. The surrounding poisonous smoke retreated automatically as though it was afraid of her. Xiao stared at Lin Muyu, whose lower body was already wrapped in rocks. She said, Are you really going to petrify in this void?" "I'm not." Lin Muyu slowly opened his palm. Rays of golden power were enshrouded in it. He muttered, "Xiaoyin's power will guide me to her. I can definitely do it." Xiao couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat. He was amused and touched. She said, "Silly boy, do you think the celestial dragon crystal can guide you to Xiaoyin?" Who are you exactly?" Xiao bowed and said, "I'm one of the god emperors under the 7 luminaries demon emperor, Fairy Xiao." "Xiao," Lin Mu looked up at her and said, "You're a god emperor. You must know where Xiaoyin is. You must know how to resurrect Xiaoyin. Am I right, Xiao? Tell me." "No." Xiao shook her head gently and said, "The cycle of life and death is an unchanging law. Even god emperors can't control it. Back then, the demon emperor was able to resurrect you because he used his divine power to suppress your 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls so that your soul wouldn't dissipate. Naturally, you could reconstruct your body. But now, can you still feel Qin Yin's aura in the Crimson Abyss? Her 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls have already dissipated. You give up. Qin Yin has already escaped into the cycle of reincarnation. Even god emperors can't control this fact. Why are you still chasing after her so bitterly?" "No, it can't be." Lin Muyu suddenly withdrew his palm and held the celestial dragon crystal spiritual essence that he had collected. He said, "The power of the celestial dragon crystal will guide me to her. I will definitely find Xiaoyin. She must be waiting for me somewhere." As he spoke, a stream of turbid blood flowed down from the corner of Lin Muyu's eyes. He could no longer shed tears. He could only shed tears of blood and rocks. Xiao's delicate body trembled. She bit her red lips and said, Do you really want to persist like this?" "Fairy Xiao." Lin Muyu looked at her and said, "I heard that once the divine truth of the heaven realm descends upon the human realm, it will consume 1,000 years of cultivation. Did you come here just to tell me to give up?" "Yes." Xiao nodded. "That's right. Qin Yin's 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls have already dissipated. She might have already started a new cycle of reincarnation. You definitely won't be able to wait for her here. You give up. Your innate talent and comprehension are outstanding. There's no need to ruin your cultivation here, right? What message does the demon emperor want you to pass to me? Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh miserably and said, I think I understand what he means. Xiao, thank you for coming. Go back and help me tell the demon emperor that he's waiting for me in the heaven realm. One day I will ascend and stand shoulder to shoulder with him in the myriad of stars. Xiao bowed once again and said, Then, this little girl will take her leave. You take care. Xiao leaped up and soared into the sky. Rays of golden ring-shaped light lingered around her as she flew. In the blink of an eye, her speed became faster and faster. Finally, she broke through the restraints of space. Xiao's figure disappeared and she had already entered another plane. Heaven realm. You're back? You've worked hard. In the pond of illusion, the 7 luminaries demon emperor stood there alone. His gaze was fixed on Lin Muyu in the pond of illusion. He frowned and said, This silly boy, his Dao, what kind of Dao is it? Xiao said softly, Demon emperor, didn't you say it yourself? Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. I think this sentence is most suitable for Lin Muyu. Heaven and earth change, a lifetime of glory and splendor, even the great Dao Xiaoyao can't move his heart. Such a person is worthy to be your brother, Demon Emperor. Ah, that's right, that's right. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor clenched his fists and said, Then, I'll wait for him in the heaven realm to stand shoulder to shoulder with me. Chapter 6:15. Time flew and the smoke in the blood-red abyss had dissipated. The lava had turned into rocks and the surface temperature had gradually returned to normal. Only the smoke rising from the fiery holes in the rock layer reminded people that this was the blood-red abyss, the abyss that had destroyed the entire 100-ridge city. There were many legends about what had happened in the blood-red abyss. Some said that the empire's empress Qin Yin and the princess Tang Xiaoxi were buried in the blood-red abyss. Some also said that Qin Yin had not died, but had ascended to the heaven realm. At least this was what Feng Jixing, Qin Yan and the others said. Otherwise, once the news of Qin Yin's death spread, the world would definitely be in chaos. However, there were also people who said that a peerless expert was sealed in the blood-red abyss, a young expert who had changed the history of the entire continent. His name was Lin Muyu. However, no one could find where Lin Muyu was. The only place that could be found was in the center of the blood-red abyss, where there was a 100-meter-tall rocky mountain. Some people said that Lin Muyu had sealed himself in the rocky mountain. He was waiting for the return of his true love. However, these seemed to be just legends. Many of them were fabricated by busybodies to be used as a topic for people to talk about after meals. Smoke and clouds lingered, and the majestic rocky mountains stood in the blood-red abyss like a spectacle. No one could understand why the dust in the blood-red abyss would gather together and form a mountain. In the depths of the rocky mountain, a young figure was still kneeling on one knee. In his hand was a starry sharp sword that had lost its original luster. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed and Lin Muyu seemed to have truly become a part of the mountain. On the 7th day of the 7th month in the year 7736 of the Empire calendar, Feng Jixing took drastic measures and surrounded Sunset City. He then took over the granaries of the dozens of counties south of Sunset City. After surrounding Sunset City for 4 months, Dingxi was finally defeated due to a lack of rations. Nearly half of the 300,000 soldiers defending Sunset City were killed. Dingxi led the rest of his troops out of the Swift White Province and headed for the southernmost Bright Mountain Province of the Shattered Cauldron Realm continent. In the same month, Wei Qiu led the Genshin Battalion to attack Lingkong Province. Xiang Yu mobilized his troops from Hundred Ridge City and the Imperial Army recovered Lingnan Province, Lingkong Province and Swift White Province of the Iha Kingdom, taking 70% of the Iha Kingdom's land. Ding Shi and Long Qianlin retreated step by step with their 200,000 soldiers. The empire was too powerful. The empire was too powerful. The empire was too powerful. They retreated to defend Mingshan Province and relied on Shangyang City to fight with the empire. On the 12th of August, the empire's army gathered on the plains to the north of Mingshan Province. The grand army of 600,000 was astonishing. Under the scorching sun, the army advanced slowly, bypassing a chain of mountain peaks. The sacred peak was where Luo Lan's 7 world palaces were located. The sacred peak was shrouded in mist, and it looked like a celestial abode. Wei Chou looked in the direction of the 7 world palaces and said coldly, "That old dog Luo Lan helped the Iha kingdom conquer Lanyan city. He probably didn't expect this day to come. Why don't we surround the 7 world palaces and kill Luo Lan with 1,000,000 soldiers?" "There's no need." Feng Jixing waved his hand lightly and said, "Luo Lan has done all sorts of bad things. An evil god like him will be punished by the heavens. We've been traveling for days and our soldiers are already exhausted. Besides, the terrain of the sacred peak is dangerous, and it's not conducive for an army to fight. Instead, the cultivators of the 7 world palaces will have a great advantage. It's not wise to attack the mountain now. If Luo Lan is courting death, he'll naturally come down to deal with us. Otherwise, there's no need for us to provoke him." "Yes." Wei Chou nodded. "Are there any new developments in the Crimson Abyss?" Feng Jixing asked. "No." Wei Chou said, "The Rocky Mountain is getting thicker and thicker, and the people we sent could no longer find Commander Yu. In the blink of an eye, a few months have passed and Commander Yu hasn't eaten or drunk anything. I really don't know what to do." Feng Jixing sighed and slowly urged his horse. "Yu is blessed by the heavens. I hope he's fine. Besides, Yu has Fushi's divine power and he shouldn't be tortured to death by hunger. Moreover, he's already in a state of hibernation. I didn't expect the dignified #1 general of the empire to seal himself in the blood abyss." Wei Chou murmured, "Commander Yu's love for Her Highness Yin is deep, and I'm afraid it's not something we can understand." "That's right." Feng Jixing looked at the endless army on the main road and said in a low voice, "Where's the herald?" The sound of horse hooves came closer and a herald respectfully said, "Marshal, what's the matter?" "Order Xiang Yu's main army to start searching for water once they enter the Mingshan province. In addition, inform Commander Su Yu to ensure food supplies. Xiangyang City is incomparably sturdy, and that old thief Qin Yi won't give up on this piece of land so easily. There's going to be a protracted battle below Xiangyang City, and we need to make sufficient preparations." "Yes." Feng Jixing looked at Wei Chou and asked, "How are the preparations for the magic crystal cannons? The mountains are high and far." Wei Chou frowned, "And the magic crystal cannons are so heavy. Even if we dismantle them, we won't be able to transport too many. There are only 10 magic crystal cannons traveling with us and we should use them wisely." "Understood." Feng Jixing took a deep breath. "Whether or not we can blast open the iron gates of Xiangyang City depends on the magic crystal cannons. It's all up to you, Wei Chou. When Yu isn't here, the Longdan army camp will be relying on you and Situ Senior." "Yes, Marshal, please rest assured." In Xiangyang City, the setting sun shone on the ancient city, and the leaves of the pear trees swayed in the wind. In the palace in the city, Qin Yi sat there with an ashen face. Below him, Long Qianlin, Ding Shi, Man Ning and the other officials were all present, but none of them said anything. At this stage of the war, what else could they say? The entire Iha country was almost powerless to reverse the situation. Is there no one who can defend Xiangyang City?" Qin Yi said coldly. Everyone looked at each other but no one said anything. After a while, Man Ning cupped his hands and said, "Commander-in-Chief, this old official thinks that we still have close to 300,000 soldiers, plus the 150,000 soldiers of Mingshan province. With close to 500,000 soldiers, we can still fight the empire. Moreover, the Iha country has won the hearts of the people. We can also mobilize the civilians to help us fight. Feng Jixing is a benevolent general. I believe he won't attack the civilians." "Is that so?" Qin Yi couldn't help but laugh. Ding Shi said, "Commander-in-Chief, our 300,000 soldiers are exhausted, and most of the 150,000 soldiers of Mingshan province are newly recruited soldiers with no fighting strength at all. But the imperial army is different. The 350,000 soldiers of Qihai City under Feng Jixing are all elites, and Wei Chou's Longdan army camp has also been reorganized with 50,000 soldiers. Together with the elite soldiers of Xiang Yu, Su Yu and Luo Exin, their 600,000 soldiers are all elites. If we take the initiative to fight, we will definitely lose." Qin Yi felt a chill in his heart. "Then what should we do? What do you think, Commander Long? If we stubbornly defend, can we defend Xiangyang City?" "I'm afraid it will be very difficult." Long Qianlin stood up and cupped his hands and said, "Can you imagine, Commander-in-Chief, how sturdy the steel walls are? Even the tens of meters thick walls were blasted apart by the magic crystal cannons of the Longdan army camp. How sturdy can the walls of Xianxia City be? I'm afraid they will also collapse at the first blow. If we stubbornly defend, we will definitely become a pile of dregs under the magic crystal cannons. Qin Yi was startled. Then what does Commander Long think we should do? Outsmart them. How do we outsmart them? Long Qianlin smiled. Do you still remember how Lin Muyu annihilated the Thunderchong army in the demon-slaying valley? A series of cannons? That's right. Long Qianlin said, according to my conjecture, the shells of the magic crystal cannons can detonate with each other. The explosion of one magic crystal cannon will trigger a series of explosions from the other magic crystal cannons. In this case, as long as we find an opportunity to sneak into the Longdan army camp and use one of the magic crystal cannons to bombard their ammunition storage camp, we will be able to destroy the magic crystal cannons of the Longdan army camp in one fell swoop. As he spoke, Long Qianlin smiled and said, we need time to buy time. The Imperial Army has only just arrived in the Southern Ridge a few months ago, so they don't have enough rations. Moreover, the Southern Ridge Province and the Swift White Province have just gone through a war. This year's harvest is not good, so they can't produce much rations. How much rations do the 600,000 soldiers of the Empire eat every day? Most of their rations have to be transported from the Northern Ridge. As long as we delay them for about 2 months, we will naturally be able to delay them until Feng Jixing runs out of rations. At that time we can send a letter to order His Highness Qin Huan and his 100,000 men to attack. Working together, it will not be difficult to destroy the Empire's 600,000 soldiers. This. Qin Yi was wild with joy and said, Marshal Long of the Iha nation is truly a gift from the heavens. Then, according to Marshal Long, how should we destroy the magic crystal cannons in the Longdan army camp? Long Qianlin said, I remember. Marquis Man Ning has a distant nephew who is a chiliarch in the Longdan army camp. If we bribe him with money and power, he should be swayed. After all, he is only a chiliarch in the Longdan army camp. If we promise him the position of one of the 7 marshals of the Empire, I believe he will not be able to refuse. However, we will have to trouble Marquis Man Ning to take the risk and make a trip there. Qin Yi looked at Man Ning and said, Marquis Man Ning, what do you think? The fat on Man Ning's body trembled. He stood up and cupped his fists, saying, This old subject's dying body can serve the Iha nation. This is my honor. Qin Yi smiled. Don't worry. If this matter is successful, Marquis Man Ning will no longer be Marquis Man Ning. I will confer you the title of King Ning. Man Ning could not help but be ecstatic. Yes, thank you, Commander. This old subject will do his best. Go. Yes. Under the support of 2 guards, Man Ning's fat body walked out of the palace step by step. Not long after, Man Ning disguised himself as a merchant and slowly left Xianxia City in a carriage, heading straight for the Imperial Army's camp in the distance. The setting sun bathed the earth in a layer of fresh blood. This was the final battle between the Empire and the Iha nation. Whoever emerged victorious would become the last ruler of this land. Both sides would spare no effort in this battle to the death. Chapter 6:16. Bam, bam, bam. Bolts of purple lightning shot into the sky, bringing with them a mushroom cloud. Violent shockwaves engulfed the Longdan army camp's magic crystal cannon battalion. Many soldiers didn't even have the chance to scream before they were obliterated by the light of the magic crystal cannons. Nearly 100 consecutive explosions rang out. This cannon blast had destroyed all the magic crystal cannons in the Longdan army camp. Above Xianxia City, Qin Yi, Long Qianlin, Ding Shi, and the others looked at the soaring purple light in the distance. It was like a catastrophe. Qin Yi clapped his hands and laughed while Long Qianlin frowned. It wasn't hard to imagine that if all these cannonballs had landed on Xianxia City's walls, the city would have become history. Ding Shi was silent, his expression solemn. Long Qianlin's plan had succeeded, but what could it change? It would only delay the destruction of the Iha nation by a few months. Once the new magic crystal cannons from Lanyan City were shipped to the front lines, Xianxia City would still be reduced to ruins. If I could use these magic crystal cannons, I wouldn't have to worry about the world. Qin Yi sighed. Beside him, Man Ning said with a smile, Commander-in-Chief, it's not difficult to obtain the magic crystal cannons. As long as they have the will of the people, they can be bought. It said that the magic crystal cannons were manufactured by a man called Qin Xiling in the imperial capital. As long as we find Qin Xiling and reward him, we won't have to worry about the magic crystal cannons. Qin Yi said with a smile, the Sunset King is right, but the war is at a stalemate now. There's no time to go to Lanyan City to invite Qin Xiling. Let's wait until the war is over. Yes. The Imperial Army's camp was already in chaos. Wei Chou carried his sword and led a line of guards toward the magic crystal cannons. He couldn't help but feel a pang in his heart when he saw the flames from afar. The magic crystal cannons were finished. Not long after, all the generals gathered in the main tent. Feng Jixing held the commander's seal and looked at the crowd indifferently. This explosion. I presume our magic crystal cannons are no more? Yes. Wei Chou cupped his fists and said with a livid face, this subordinate was incompetent and allowed one of my Kiliarchs to fire a magic crystal cannon without permission, causing a series of explosions in the warehouse. All the cannonballs were destroyed. Sigh. Feng Jixing said, you can't be blamed for this. We need to find out who did this. We need to come up with a long-term plan. Tell me, since we don't have the magical crystal cannons anymore, how are we going to take Xiangyang City? Fu said, the walls of Xiangyang City are 20 meters tall and are extremely sturdy. The gates are made of pure iron and are 1 meter thick. Siege chariots are of no use at all. Add to that the fact that Xiangyang City is supported by nearly 100 wealthy provinces, and it will be very difficult to take the city by force. We have to attack even if it's difficult. Xiang Yu frowned and said, I suggest that we start attacking the city tomorrow. Every legion will attack the city for 3 days, taking turns to attack. This will tire out the defenders of Xiangyang City. Then we will send small groups of soldiers to infiltrate Xiangyang City through the 2 mountain ranges and spread rumors that Qin Yi intends to abandon the city. This will disrupt their morale and cause Xiangyang City to collapse on its own. Alright, that's the only way. Feng Jixing looked at Wei Chou and said, when will the next batch of magical crystal cannons be delivered? In a month. We need a heavy escort. We can't afford to make any more mistakes. Don't worry, Marshal. This subordinate will personally escort them. Good. Feng Jixing looked at the starry sky outside the tent and couldn't help but sigh. If only you were here. Su Yu, Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Situ Shui, Zhang Wei and the others were immediately moved. Yes, if Lin Muyu were here, perhaps she would have a brilliant plan, and they wouldn't have to attack the city by force. Attacking by force meant that they would have to use the flesh and blood of the imperial soldiers to forge a new throne. Even though no one knew who would sit on this throne. Late at night, Feng Jixing still couldn't sleep with the military book in his hands. At this moment, a guard's voice came from outside. Marshal, Divine Marquesian Yifan, Commander Su Yu, Commander Wei Chou, Commander Qin Yan, Commander Xiang Yu and Commander Luo Exen request an audience. These 4 people were the pillars of their respective armies. Ever since Tang Lan and Su Muyun died and Tang Xiaoxi's whereabouts were unknown, these people were the true pillars of the empire. Come in. There must be an important matter for them to come in the middle of the night. After the group of people entered the tent, Feng Jixing put down the military book, stood up and cupped his fists. May I know what brings all of you here in the middle of the night? Everyone looked at each other, seemingly trying to shirk responsibility. Finally, Su Yu stepped forward, cupped her fists and said, General Feng, you are the current marshal of the empire. The Empress's final edict was to confer you the title of marshal. You is sealed in the Crimson Abyss, and you are the person with the highest military authority in the empire. We would like to ask, what plans do you have for the empire's future? Feng Jixing couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. Su Yu's meaning was self-evident. Now that Qin Yin was dead, the empire needed a new ruler. A country couldn't be without a ruler. Xiang Yu cupped his fists and said, ever since the empire entered Lingnan, we have been winning every battle. Now that the empress has fallen, the empire needs a new ruler. General Feng, the empire needs a new ruler. Ruler? Feng Jixing replied somewhat woodenly. Su'er said, General Feng, we are all important ministers of the empire. Although Xiao Yin didn't leave behind any words before she left, I'm sure Xiao Yin also doesn't want to see the empire fall apart. Everyone, what do you think? Feng Jixing said softly. He knew that the future ruler of the empire depended on who these people were willing to support. Xiang Yu frowned and said, We need a legitimate ruler with the bloodline of a ruler. Now, there aren't many people with the bloodline of the Qin family. His Highness Qin Yan is the person with the bloodline closest to Her Highness Yin. The other people are Qin Yong, Qin Jiao, and the others from Prince Zhong's residence. In my opinion, we should support Qin Yan as the new ruler of Great Qin. What does General Feng think? Feng Jixing didn't reply, but looked towards Qin Yan and asked, "Ah Yan, are you willing to be the ruler of Great Qin?" Qin Yan stared blankly and hurriedly said, "I'm not willing to steal my cousin's empire. Moreover, I don't know anything about the matters of an emperor. I don't even know how to face the imperial court. If I become the ruler, I will only harm the empire and the people. I hope that General Feng will reconsider." Feng Jixing sighed. "Are there any other candidates?" "There is." Zheng Yifan stroked his beard and said, "Lin Muyu, sealed in the blood-red abyss, is the foster son of the previous emperor and Her Highness Yin's foster brother. His military exploits are outstanding and unprecedented. His cultivation has also reached perfection. I'm afraid there is no one more suitable than him to be the new ruler of the Qin Empire." Zheng Yifan was the only old official present, so his words naturally carried a lot of weight. Feng Jixing nodded and said, "It's just that he willingly sealed himself in the blood-red abyss. Even if I don't ask, everyone should understand that you will not accept it. Her Highness Yin went to the 100 Ridge city alone and was killed. This matter has already made you feel guilty for half a year. If you were to ascend to the throne at this time, Divine Marquis, do you think you will agree?" Zheng Yifan couldn't help but wring his hands and said, "That's right, the difficulty lies in the fact that Lin Muyu is a person who is loyal to his feelings." Feng Jixing looked at everyone with a burning gaze and said, "We are all the commanders of the empire and are all loyal to Her Highness Yin. But you is still bitterly guarding the blood-red abyss, waiting for Her Highness Yin's return. Shouldn't we wait? I think the Qin Empire will no longer support an emperor and will only confer titles of nobles. We will guard this 10,000 miles of territory and wait for the day when Her Highness Yin returns. How about it?" "Yes." Everyone cupped their fists. After a while, Sir said, "Then, there should be a person who can hold the power alone, right?" "Yes." Feng Jixing nodded. "After we break into Xiangyang City and kill Qin Yi Long Qianlin and the other enemies, I will personally go to the blood-red abyss and ask you to ascend to the throne. If he is unwilling, then we will have to trouble Ah Yan." Qin Yan was stunned. "I." Feng Jixing's palm lightly covered Qin Yan's shoulder and he said, "This is your responsibility. There's no need to decline. None of us here have the qualifications to proclaim ourselves emperors. We are all waiting for the day Her Highness Yin returns." "Yes." By Ling City, clouds and smoke shrouded the sky above the blood-red abyss. A group of fast horses galloped over and a group of cultivators dismounted. Each of them had the emblem of the 7 world palaces on their arms. In the air, an old man stepped on clouds. It was Luolan, who had already cultivated to the peak of the hierarch realm. Luolan was a cautious person. As one of the state advisors of the Iha country, he had gone into hiding after the Iha country's defeat. He also knew that he could not defy the will of the heavens. The Iha country had lost, suffered a crushing defeat. Under such circumstances, defying the will of the heavens was undoubtedly harming himself. "This is the blood-red abyss?" Luolan laughed coldly, looking disdainfully at the abyss. A group of disciples jumped into the abyss. There was no lack of saints among them. All of them held weapons in their hands and walked carefully in the abyss. In the distance, a rock mountain stood tall. A disciple hurriedly said, "Celestial Sovereign, look. That is the rock mountain that Lin Muyu sealed himself in. His body is within that rock mountain. Follow me." "Yes." The group of people flew over. When they arrived at the foot of the rock mountain, they found that the rock mountain was extraordinarily big. It was very majestic and there were patches of green on it. There were many fragments of Qin Yin's divine essence in this blood-red abyss, but they are all gone now. Lin Muyu must have taken them away. "Humph," a disciple said angrily. "Lin Muyu said that he would wait here for Qin Yin's return." "Return?" Luolan could not help but laugh coldly. "I'm afraid he won't have that chance. Today Luolan will break the mountain and take his life. I will make sure that Lin Muyu will never recover. All of you get out of my way. I'm going to attack. Today I will send Lin Muyu and Qin Yin to hell together." Yes. The disciples dispersed one by one. Luo Lan stepped in the air and suddenly let out a low roar. Suddenly, golden light flowed around his arms. When he put his palms together above his head, his divine power condensed into a peerless divine saber. It was the power of Luo Lan's martial soul, demon blood saber. Boom. The ground shook and the top half of the rock mountain was smashed by Luo Lan's saber. Luo Lan roared and struck again. Bang. Rocks flew everywhere and the stone mountain instantly cracked open from the center. However, a powerful force surged within the mountain. Chapter 6:17. Ping ping ping. The stone mountain crumbled and flowers bloomed. Under Luo Lan's second attack, the boulder shattered inch by inch and almost turned into dust. Amidst the dust, a young man wearing a tattered white robe and armor knelt on one knee. His hand was holding a dim long sword and his head was lowered as he knelt there silently without saying a word. However, golden rays of Fuxi divine energy formed a huge self-defense shield above his head, protecting his body from Luo Lan's demonic blood blade. Ha! Luo Lan laughed arrogantly. Lin Muyu, you really didn't die. The disciples of the seven world palaces were on high alert as they took out their weapons and surrounded Lin Muyu from afar. Who didn't know Lin Muyu's strength? He was just a holy king, but he had two martial souls, the seven luminaries' profound energy, star arts and other secret arts. His strength was comparable to a peak holy king, and he even had the ability to challenge a hierarch. They had to be wary of such a person. After the dust settled, Lin Muyu finally raised his head. His face was covered in layers of stone skin, and the stone skin was connected to the moss. It looked terrifying, but the light in his eyes never changed. He looked at Luo Lan in the sky and said indifferently, Luo Lan, what are you doing here again? Luo Lan's eyes were filled with disdain as he said, I'm looking for the essence of Qin Yin's godhead fragments to recast her overgod godhead for my use. Lin Muyu, if you know what's good for you, get out of here immediately. From now on, everything that belongs to Qin Yin belongs to me, Luo Lan. Bullshit. Lin Muyu's voice was very calm as he said indifferently, this is the place where Xiao Yin rests. Get out of here with your lackeys and I can consider sparing your lives. Dream on. Luo Lan laughed loudly, you're already sealed in stone and can't even protect yourself. You still want to threaten us? Lin Muyu, Lin Muyu, you wasted the efforts of the seven luminaries demon emperor to nurture you. Look at yourself now. You're willing to seal yourself in stone for a woman. You're dreaming if you think you can conquer the heaven realm with such ambition. You should just die obediently. Hell is the most suitable place for you in the three realms. Lin Muyu did not say a word. She struggled with all her might, only to find that most of her body had turned into rock and had become one with the earth in the depths of the crimson abyss. Her veins were also connected to thin vines. Now it was as if her entire body was tied up there, unable to move. You piece of trash, take my blade. Luo Lan roared, his eyes glowing fiercely. He took out the demon blood blade and his divine power surged. He suddenly slashed down from the sky, using at least 30% of his divine power. Suddenly the surrounding air seemed to solidify. Before the blade hit the ground of the blood abyss had already started to crumble inch by inch. Rock fragments swirled in the air and exploded in the air. A strong sense of oppression came crashing down from the sky. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be secretly shocked. Luo Lan's cultivation was no longer the Luo Lan of a few years ago. He had indeed reached the peak of the first heaven of the divine state. His Yi was filled with blood-red chaos. Lin Muyu couldn't summon much power. The king's combat flame in his body seemed to have gone dormant. Only a strand of Fuxi's divine power could resist the enemy. With a roar, Fuxi's divine power condensed into a dragon blood shield above his shoulder. Bang! That earth-shattering attack caused Lin Muyu's body to tremble as she fell several meters into the ground. The ground around her crumbled and evaporated. A wave of golden divine power spread out in all directions, catching the Luo Lan disciples off guard and causing them to fall. Many disciples with lower cultivation bases were directly knocked unconscious or injured by the divine power's shockwave. Buzz buzz buzz. In the blood abyss, the golden light that was scattered in the corner was constantly wailing. That was the essence of the divine spark that Qin Yin had left behind. However, these essence fragments were currently withstanding the destructive power of Luo Lan. Stop. Lin Muyu raised his head. His eyes were filled with anger. he shouted. "I told you to stop. How dare an ant like you speak so arrogantly?" In the air, Luo Lan wore a golden robe and held a blood-red demon blood saber. His eyes were filled with disdain. "Lin Muyu, do you know the difference between a god and a human? A god is above everything. A human is just an ant. Your pain, your sorrow in my eyes, is just an insignificant pleading from an ant. You are not worthy to be my opponent. I only used 30% of my strength in the previous attack. Next I will use 40%. Let's see how you can block it." Buzz buzz buzz. Faint golden runes appeared in the heaven realm. It seemed to be providing Luo Lan's divine power. At this moment the two planes seemed to have been opened. Luo Lan was borrowing the power of the heaven realm to kill Lin Muyu. Did the heaven realm, that holy plane, really represent justice? Probably not. Boom. Luo Lan's second blow landed heavily on Lin Muyu's shoulder. Immediately, a heart-wrenching pain spread through Lin Muyu's body, causing the rocks around him to shatter. Lin Muyu himself spat out a mouthful of blood. Although this attack severely injured Lin Muyu, it also made Lin Muyu realize that the blood-red chaotic power that had shrouded his Yi-Hai for half a year had dissipated a lot. A new king's fighting flame crazily rushed into his Yi-Hai. "Come on, continue. Let's see how many blades you have." Lin Muyu raised his head and roared. "Presumptuous." Luo Lan stood proudly in the air like a Buddha. The demon blood saber in his hand buzzed. The passage to the heaven realm constantly flowed with divine power and poured into Luo Lan's body. Strength to break all things. The demon blood saber was raised again. This time, endless divine power descended from the sky and drilled into the ground. In the next moment, the blood abyss trembled and exploded. This huge blood abyss was being destroyed at a rapid pace. The last bit of power that Qin Yin left on the ground was also quickly dissipating. "Stop." Lin Muyu's eyes were bloodshot as he roared. "Are you angry?" Luo Lan laughed. "I want you to be angry. I want you to be angry, but you can't do anything about it. I want you to be angry, but you can only watch as I control everything. This is the difference between a god and an ant. Now die." Buzz. The demon blood saber descended from the sky and slashed the dragon blood battle shield that Fuxi had condensed with divine power for the third time. Bang. The sky shook and the ground shook. The entire surface of the blood abyss was violently collapsing. The barren walls of Bailing City in the distance were also collapsing. Luo Lan's current cultivation was no longer a disgrace to the word God. Perhaps only a god could have the ability to destroy heaven and earth. Pooh. Fresh blood splattered on the ground. Lin Muyu was already heavily injured, but his unyielding will allowed him to continue persevering. However, what worried him was that before he died, this blood abyss would be destroyed by Luo Lan. Around him, the disciples of the seven world palaces saw that the outcome had been decided. All of them were grinning from ear to ear. An immortal venerable's strength is indeed unparalleled in the mortal world. Lin Muyu is dead for sure this time. He's the one courting death. As an ant, he actually dares to challenge the might of the heavens. He's simply courting death. Immortal venerable, one more slash, chop Lin Muyu's dog head into pieces. Ah, what four heroes of Lanyan. What wind, rain, thunder and lightning. They're just a bunch of jumping clowns. Immortal venerable, strengthen the might of our seven world palaces. The ridicule from the crowd could not enter Lin Muyu's ears. All of his emotions were concentrated in his EC. Luo Lan's third slash had split the blood chaos in his EC by 30%. 2 more slashes, maybe 1 more slash would be enough to disperse this seal that had appeared out of nowhere. Still not dead yet? Luo Lan stood in the air and sneered. The demon blood saber buzzed and trembled. Godly energy rapidly poured into it. This time at least 70% of the godly energy was gathered. The demon blood saber spun in the air and slashed down with great force. Boom. The ground completely collapsed. Lin Muyu fell several hundred meters, his petrified body falling into the boiling lava. Luo Lan waved his hand and his godly energy spread out like a huge net in the air, protecting the group of disciples so that they would not fall into the second layer of the blood abyss. Wah! Lin Muyu still maintained his kneeling position. He held the sword in one hand as he knelt in the boiling lava. Looking up at the sky, a faint golden light shone in his eyes. Xiao xiao xiao. Rays of holy light rippled under his feet. His EC had never been so clear before. Moreover, all the auras, energy, changes of the stars, and the rotation of the universe seemed to be crystal clear. At this moment Lin Muyu had entered a whole new realm, the Saint Heaven realm. Finally, thanks to the power of Luolan's fourth slash, Lin Muyu had stepped into the third layer of the Saint realm. In the air Luolan saw everything clearly. He could not help but feel a chill in his heart. His embarrassment turned into anger, and he poured all of his godly energy into the demon blood saber. In an instant the sky turned dark, and beams of golden light poured into Luolan's body. After the full power was released, Luolan's eyes had already turned golden, the unique color of a god's eyes. Kill! Luolan descended from the sky, concentrating all of his strength into a single slash. This was already Luolan's strongest attack at his current cultivation level. Lin Muyu did not have any fear in his heart. The Saint Heaven realm's power continuously attacked every part of his body, and the rock layer on the surface of his body cracked and cracked. The light from the stellar sword in his hand soared into the sky, and he met Luolan's attack head-on. He did not use any techniques, but simply used Fushi's godly energy to meet Luolan's full power attack head-on. Bang! 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 3 consecutive loud sounds rang out, and a splatter of blood splattered in the air. Celestial Sovereign, this is impossible. This is impossible. The group of disciples from the 7 world palaces were all dumbfounded. In the air Luolan's body fluttered down like cotton, while Lin Muyu wielded the astral sword in his hand. His eyes were completely coated with a golden sheen as beams of golden light shot through the clouds and gathered around his body. Numerous golden runes revolved around the pillar of light, and faint sounds of chanting could be heard. Lin Muyu had stepped into the heavenly divinity realm. Rays of transparent and resplendent spheres of energy revolved around Lin Muyu, and each of them had a different luster and color. Red like fire, green like wind, blue like ice, gold like light and purple like lightning. A total of 12 beads containing godly energy revolved around Lin Muyu, and his golden eyes were filled with indescribable anger. He shouted, "Even if I am an ant, I will still kill you, despicable god." Wang! His figure shot towards Luolan like a meteor and Lin Muyu slashed out with his sword. Ah! Luolan hurriedly raised the devil blood saber to block, but how could he block it? In the next instant the saber was destroyed and Luolan was dead. The golden sword chi from Lin Muyu's sword pierced out from Luolan's body, tearing the earth and rivers apart. This sword strike seemed to be able to tear the earth apart, causing the entire 100-mountain range city to tremble. Even the steel walls in the distance collapsed. Slaying a god. Celestial Sovereign, oh my heavens! The group of disciples from the 7 world palaces were dumbfounded, but when they looked at Lin Muyu's golden eyes, all of them involuntarily knelt down. At this moment Lin Muyu was the true god, and they were merely ants that were as lowly as dirt. Chapter 6:18. Heavenly Realm, Pond of Illusion. Xiao, who was dressed in a white veil, looked like a fairy as she stared at the scene of Lin Muyu awakening in the Pond of Illusion. Her face was filled with shock and disbelief as she murmured, "Wind, fire, lightning, earth, ice, light, life, space, order, darkness, chaos, wisdom. A total of 12 spiritual bodies of laws." He actually awakened a sovereign lattice. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was equally shocked, but his face was filled with joy. "Ah! As expected of my brother, you is born with a sovereign lattice, ha!" The group of god emperors and god kings were dumbfounded, their faces pale. What did a sovereign lattice mean? It meant that as long as he made good use of it, he could become a true god in the heavenly realm, or even the ruler of the heavens beyond heaven. The 7 luminaries demon emperor said, "Looks like we don't have to worry about the shattered cauldron world anymore. However, you has just awakened a sovereign lattice and he is not good at making use of it. If we miss this opportunity..." Xiao smiled faintly, "Don't worry, after I descended to the lower realm, I left a restriction in the blood-red abyss. Anyone who uses divine power in the blood-red abyss will suffer a backlash. Ayu used such a tyrannical supreme divine power, but his cultivation is still shallow, so he will definitely fall into a deep sleep due to the backlash, and then enter the forgotten realm that the supreme being must go through." The 7 brilliance demon monarch took a deep breath. That's for the best. It's time for him to truly cultivate after he enters the forgotten realm. That kid Ayu, he's so stubborn, compassionate and crazy. Are those words his Dao, his rules? Xiao said, the sovereign lattice is the one that rules over all things. It requires extremely difficult cultivation to complete the second awakening. Everything depends on how you passes the forgotten realm. Wait for him to awaken again. Yes. By Ling City. The blood abyss was filled with smoke. It was as though the scene of Qin Yin's death half a year ago had returned. However, this time it was a scene of slaughter. Die. A beam of golden light shot through the sky above the blood abyss. The stellar sword once again slashed out with a heaven-piercing golden sword chi, shredding the 3 disciples of the 7 world palaces into pieces. You want to leave? Lin Muyu abruptly turned around and opened her palm. A law of darkness spun in her palm, and with a wing sound, darkness energy surged. A Saint Realm disciple who was trying to escape was instantly immobilized. His body slowly swelled up and exploded into a bloody mess. Under the might of the law of darkness, a mere Saint Realm expert was not even worth mentioning. All of you will die. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with a merciless golden light. She pointed her long sword straight towards the sky. Suddenly, the heaven realm's divine power in the clouds poured down as if it was summoned by its master. Swoosh, 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 3 golden crystal pillars fell from the sky. It was Qin Yin's celestial dragon crystal. Bang, bang, bang. The law of light's destructive energy rippled outwards, and not a single one of the disciples from the 7 world palaces was spared. Lin Muyu flew through the air and stomped on the ground. Bo! A boundless chill swept out, and a curtain of ice and snow rapidly extended in the sky, freezing a few disciples who had already escaped far away into ice shards. Obviously they were already dead. However, Lin Muyu's intent Si and Qi Si were in a state of chaos. The supreme god force in her body had to be spat out quickly. She raised her iron fist in the air, and a blood-red energy revolved around her fist. This was the chaotic god force of the law of chaos. Her entire body was like a meteor as she fell into the blood abyss. This fist seemed as if it wanted to tear the earth apart. The earth shook violently, and the ruins of the 100-ridge city in the distance started to collapse. The power of this fist was no less than a magnitude 10 earthquake. Hong hong hong. Streams of fiery red lava soared into the sky, and the entire blood abyss doubled in size. Fortunately, the 100-ridge city was already a dead city with no signs of human habitation. Otherwise, this fist would have killed at least 1 million people. In the air, the shattered rocks and lava only fell back down after a few minutes. Piles of rubble piled up to form a new stone mountain, and it was a stone mountain that stretched for more than 10 li. However, Lin Muyu's figure was nowhere to be seen, and her supreme god force had also dissipated. It was as if nothing had happened, and all that was left was the stone mountain, as well as the shattered corpses of Luo Lan and the disciples from the 7 world palaces. Sleeping and awakening her strength did not mean that she had truly become stronger. Lin Muyu needed time to consolidate her strength. Otherwise, how would she be able to control such a powerful supreme godhead? Weng! The table started to shake and the candlelight on it flickered. Feng Jixing, who was holding a book on military strategy, couldn't help but be stunned. He raised his head and asked, "What's wrong, an earthquake?" Not far away, Zhang Wei said, "It seems like an earthquake." "Where did the earthquake come from?" Chu Yao asked. "I don't know." Wei Chou shook his head, saying, "It seems like the earthquake came from the direction of the 100-ridge city. The place of the earthquake is very far away from us, but the feeling is very strong." Feng Jixing said, "Looks like there was a big earthquake in the direction of the 100-ridge city. It's a pity that the people of the Southern Ridge province have experienced so many wars, and now they have to face such a strong earthquake. AI, they have no way to live. Chu Yao smiled faintly. "After we kill Qin Yi, we will reduce the taxes of the Southern Ridge province for the next 3 years. And that's the only way." Feng Jixing looked to the north and said, "I wonder how Yu is doing. He's in the blood abyss, and if there is an earthquake in the 100-ridge city, you won't be able to avoid it." Wei Chou said, "How about this subordinate immediately leads the cavalry to the 100-ridge city to protect commander? No need." Feng Jixing waved his hand, a ray of light flashed in his eyes and said, "Who is Yu? He's an expert comparable to the immortal state. A mere earthquake can't do anything to him. We should kill Qin Yi as soon as possible. That's the best plan." "Yes." At the same time, in a small town to the south of the 100-ridge city, the sound of a baby being born could be heard. The family was very happy, and an old man with white hair and beard was extremely happy, holding a baby girl, and said with a red face, she's finally born, our Li family has a descendant. The Li family ran a clinic in the small town. Their only son Li Xiang was recruited as a soldier of the Iha country, and died in battle half a year ago, leaving a descendant in his wife's womb. The baby girl that was born was the only descendant of the Li family. Her father, Li Shu, was a doctor who collected, sold, and treated illnesses for a living. After losing his son in old age, he got a granddaughter, and it was easy to imagine how happy he was. The small town was full of sparks. On the 20th of the 12th month, year 7736 of the Empire calendar, Qin Xiling personally escorted 70 magic crystal cannons to Lingnan. Feng Jixing mobilized 240,000 men, arranged 12 Qinkuan battle formations to fight the Iha country, and defeated Long Qianlin's Iron Chain formation. Wei Chou bombarded Xiangyang city, razing the entire northern city wall to the ground, and the army killed their way into the city. After Xiangyang city was breached, Long Qianlin and Ding Shi led the remnants of the army to escort Qin Yi Man Ning and their families out of Mingshan province, and formed a fleet at the east sea border of Lingkong province. They gathered a total of more than 800 warships of the Iha country, and left Lingnan with a large sum of money, talents, and women, crossing the sea to seek refuge on the dragon-shaped island. On the 7th of the 3rd month, year 7737 of the Empire calendar, Feng Jixing commanded 1,200 warships of the Empire and a total of 100,000 troops to attack the dragon-shaped island. However, they encountered a storm on the sea and more than 200 warships were lost, and the navy suffered heavy losses. Then they encountered Long Qianlin's hidden troops on the north side of the dragon-shaped island, and their warships suffered heavy losses. In the end, they returned in low spirits and had no choice but to give up the plan to eliminate Qin Yi. On the 3rd of the 4th month, year 7737 of the Empire calendar, Qin Yan led 100,000 elite troops and 30 magic crystal cannons to defeat the advanced troops of the demon race and the armored demon army in Heaven's Pivot province, and recaptured the Heaven's Pivot province from the hands of the demon race. In the middle of the 4th month, Qianfeng ordered the demon race to officially withdraw from Lingdong province, and all the troops went into hibernation in the Tongtian Gorge and Tongtian province. They would not contend with the empire for supremacy for a short period of time. At this point, under the leadership of Feng Jixing, Xiang Yu and the others, the empire was reunified, and most of the 12 provinces returned to the empire's territory. On the 5th of the 5th month, year 7737 of the Empire calendar, Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, Chu Yao, Siyu, Xiang Yu, Zhen Yifan, and the others arrived at the Blood-Red Abyss. At this time, the Blood-Red Abyss had already become a huge basin. The basin was overgrown with weeds, and a towering stone mountain stood at the center of the abyss. There were no signs of human habitation here, and only birds and beasts roamed around. Chu Yao looked at the stone mountain covered in grass and couldn't help but tremble. She knew that Lin Muyu was buried under this mountain, but no one knew where he was and when he would wake up. Everyone walked step by step to the top of the stone mountain, but the ground was barren. What else could they find? Situ Shui frowned slightly and said, "My lord, where is he?" Situ Sun said, "A year ago, a hunter said that he personally witnessed a battle between gods. Commander, you grasped the power of gods and killed Luo Lan and all the disciples of the 7 world palaces. If that's the case, Commander, you might have already ascended to the heaven realm." "Impossible," Feng Jixing muttered. "Why is it impossible? I know him too well." Feng Jixing's eyes were red and he said, "Before finding Her Highness, you will definitely not ascend to the heaven realm. Why would this silly boy ascend by himself?" Wei Chou gritted his teeth and said, "We must find my lord. Men, dig the stone mountain for me and find Commander." "No." Su Yu hurriedly stopped him and said, "If you doesn't want to see us, there's no need for us to disturb him. Furthermore, this is the place where Her Highness rests. How can we wantonly dig here?" "Then what should we do?" Qin Yan was stunned. Feng Jixing sighed lightly and he had a helpless look. Zhen Yifan said, "The world has already been unified and it cannot be without a ruler. General Feng, let this old subject tell Commander you some things, is that all right?" "I'll have to trouble Divine Overlord." "Yes." As Zheng Yifan slowly walked forward, holding the golden imperial edict in his hand. He knelt on the peak of the stone mountain and said, "Commander Yu, the world has already been unified. However, Her Highness Yin has already passed away, and we must appoint a new ruler. Therefore, after discussion we have decided to appoint 3 kings. Everyone has elected Commander Yu as King Qin, Commander Feng Jixing as King Exin, and His Highness Qin Yan as King Zhong. Before Her Highness Yin returns to the Shattered Cauldron Realm continent, the 3 kings will rule the world. We hope that Your Highness King Qin will wake up soon. The empire needs you to rule the world." Feng Jixing came behind Zheng Yifan and said softly, We are all subjects of the Qin clan, and we are all waiting for Her Highness Yin's return. I hope that you are the same. Don't be willful and return to Lanyan City if you are still there." As he spoke, Feng Jixing's heart was filled with bitterness. He had already stepped into the Saint Heaven realm, but at this moment he couldn't feel any spiritual energy pulse in the mountain. There was no one at the bottom of the mountain and no one knew where Lin Muyu had gone. Chapter 619. June 15, Lanyan City Re-establishment Ceremony. The periphery of the Zetian Palace was officially opened to the commoners, so much so that it was almost overcrowded. Over 100,000 commoners gathered at the periphery of the Zetian Palace's square, waiting for the crowning ceremony. Inside the palace, all the officials were silent. The throne was empty, the divine weapon was not wielded by anyone, and the 2 kings Feng Jixing and Qin Yan were only holding their weapons and standing at the foot of the throne. Xiang Yu, Zhen Yifan, Su Yu and the others had grave expressions. Although they had already wiped out the rebels of Iha country and repelled the demon race, Qin Yin was already dead. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi's whereabouts were unknown. The empire's territory was unified, but the people's hearts were not. This was something that they could not be happy about no matter what. "Are you ready, Yan?" Feng Jixing asked in a low voice. "Yes." Qin Yan was a little nervous. He gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, and at the same time tightened the chain on his armor a little. Feng Jixing smiled slightly and said, "Duke Xiong, let's go out. The people of the world have been waiting for a long time. There shouldn't be a problem for you to summon them, right?" Zheng Yifan said respectfully, "Your Highness Prince Exin, this is this old subject's honor." "Yes, let's go, Yan." Feng Jixing lightly bumped Qin Yan's shoulder and walked out of the palace with him. In this world, the 2 kings Feng Jixing and Qin Yan had the highest authority. Of course, the real ruler was Lin Muyu, who was sleeping in the blood-red abyss. Feng Jixing was Prince Exin, Qin Yan was Prince Zhong, and Lin Muyu's title was the Qin Wang. It was obvious who was the real ruler of the empire. When Feng Jixing and Qin Yan walked out of the main hall in their golden cloaks, the sea of people outside instantly burst into cheers. The empire's commoners had suffered from the war, and now they had finally welcomed the unification of the empire. They had finally chased away the cruel devil race. This was the result they had been waiting for a long time. After the 2 kings Xiang Yu, Luo Exin, Wei Chou and the others followed one by one. When the group of ministers came to the altar outside the palace, Zheng Yifan, wearing a purple robe and holding a golden imperial edict, came to the front. He raised the imperial edict and imbued his voice with the power of the holy domain. He said loudly, "By the emperor's decree." Immediately, the tens of thousands of imperial guards outside the palace knelt down, and the civilians in the distance also knelt down. Zheng Yifan opened the scroll and read with a penetrating voice, "Her Highness the Empress Qin Yin has ascended to cultivate, and specially ordered the 3 kings to rule the world on her behalf. The commander of the brave dragon legion, Lin Muyu, is the foster son of the former emperor and the empress's foster brother, has outstanding military service and is famous throughout the world. She is conferred the title of Qin Wang. The commander of the imperial guards, Feng Jixing, has performed meritorious service in eliminating the Lingnan rebels. She is conferred the title of Prince Exin, and will guard the southern border. The commander of the imperial guards, Qin Yan, is the son of Prince Jining, Qinin. He has the bloodline of the great Qin, and has performed meritorious service in recovering the Tianshu province. She is conferred the title of Prince Zhong and will guard the northern border." Feng Jixing and Qin Yan knelt down together. The female official Shangguan Jingyue walked forward, holding the sword seals of the kings and bestowed them one by one. Feng Jixing held the seal and his heart was filled with mixed feelings. If he could choose, he would rather continue to be the commander of the imperial guards under Xiaoyao. But now that Qin Yin had passed away and Lin Muyu wasn't around, if he didn't stand up, the Qin Empire would inevitably be stolen by others. At the very least, before Qin Yin and Lin Muyu return, he had to take care of this huge empire on their behalf. Qin Yan's face was slightly excited. After all, a man should be able to establish meritorious service in this world. Now that his title of nobility had reached the pinnacle, if his father and elder brother were still alive, they should be proud of their current status, right? Zheng Yifan took another imperial edict and continued to read loudly. Marquis of Pingnan Xiangyu is conferred the title of Duke of Southern, guarding Mingshan Province. Luo Exin, the adopted son of Yunzhong King, is conferred the title of Duke of Northern, guarding Yunzhong Province. Wei Chou, the deputy commander of Valiant Dragon Army, is conferred the title of Duke of Wei, guarding Lingdong Province. Zheng Yifan, the title of Divine Marquis, is conferred the title of Duke of Zhonghua, guarding Qihai Province. Xiang Yu, Luo Exin, and Wei Chou knelt down one after another, and Shangguan Jingyue once again bestowed them with new duke sword seals. Zheng Yifan paused for a moment, then said loudly again, Su Jiantao is conferred the title of Marquis of Tsongnan, guarding Tsongnan Province. Bailey Tsong is conferred the title of Marquis of Tsonghai, commanding the Empire's navy. Tang Zhen is conferred the title of Marquis of Zhenxi, commanding the Zhenghua army. Yao Yuan is still the title of Marquis of Jinghai, guarding Lingkong Province. Su Yu is conferred the title of Marquis of Xining, guarding Tianshu Province. All the marquises must do their best to assist the three princes in ruling the world. The five of them knelt down one after another, accepting the conferment. 3 princes for dukes and 5 marquises. From then on, the new ruling structure of the Qin Empire was forged, and it was precisely this structure that allowed the Qin Empire to be peaceful for more than 10 years. Following that, they conferred the titles of various ministers, assistant ministers, and so on. The entire empire had a brand new look. At night, a banquet was set up in Zetian Hall to entertain the ministers. Zetian Hall was still the same as before, just that there was no master. After the conferment ceremony, Feng Jixing would soon return to Sunset City to train the troops and guard the southern border. Qin Yan, on the other hand, would be in charge of the military deployment of the entire Northern Ridge Province's 8 major provinces. As Duke Wei, Wei Chou was also the commander of the Longdan army camp. His task was the heaviest. He had to go to Lingdong Province, rebuild Lingdong, contend against and exterminate the demon race. As they toasted each other, everyone drank too much. The weather in June was already very hot, and a group of ministers staggered from drinking. Everyone knew that the empire no longer had an emperor and only had 3 princes. Duke Wei Chou held onto a wine cup that was half spilled and came out of the hall. He sat down under a stone pillar and looked at the bright moon in the sky, feeling tipsy. When he thought of Qin Yin's death and Tang Xiaoxi's disappearance, Lin Muyu's heart was like dead ashes, and tears rolled down uncontrollably. He didn't feel any honor or favor from being promoted to Duke Wei, only bitterness. Duke Wei is hiding here and crying by himself. How does this look? Feng Jixing's voice rang out from behind. His armor was draped with the Duke's gilded cloak, and he held onto the golden Jew in his hand. He sat down next to Wei Chou and looked toward the south, listening to the musicians playing music in the palace behind him. Feng Jixing couldn't help but feel desolate in his heart. His eyes turned red and he turned away to wipe away his tears. It was true that there was nothing to be happy about. Wei Chou smiled. Prince Exin, why have you come? It's better if you just call me General Feng. Feng Jixing raised his head and drank the top-grade snowflower wine in the golden Jew. He said, Wei Chou, although our empire now has powerful weapons like the magic crystal cannons, we still mustn't underestimate the devil race. I think you know better than anyone else how terrifying the devil race's huge flying snakes are. The Longdan army camp has entered deep into the wintering province alone. Our plan is only to defend and not take the initiative to provoke an attack. We mustn't underestimate Qianfeng. I understand. It's just that the Longdan army camp has suffered severe casualties. It'll probably be hard for us to face the devil race alone. Don't worry about that. Feng Jixing smiled and said, during this month, I'll select soldiers who have gone through hundreds of battles from the hundreds of thousands of elite soldiers in Lingnan to replenish the Longdan army camp. We'll expand the Longdan army camp to 100,000 people and become the real #1 army. Apart from that, I've discussed it with Yan and we'll give you a reserve army of 100,000 people for you to train. We'll prepare all the strategic resources that the Wintering Province needs and send them to the Wintering Province endlessly from Lingnan and Lingbei. That's great. Feng Jixing patted his shoulder and smiled. Wei Chou, you're able to become the commander-in-chief of an army of 200,000 at such a young age. You have a great future ahead of you. Make good use of this rare opportunity. However, Wei Chou felt a little sad and said, I'd rather continue to be that general under the Lord Commander. People have to grow. This is your cultivation. Feng Jixing took a long look at him and said, before you returns you'll be his incarnation. You should understand. I know. Wei Chou took in a deep breath and asked, General Feng, as Prince Xen, you're going to head over to Lingnan soon. However, the chaos in Lingnan has just been pacified. Do you have the confidence to rule over Lingnan? Don't worry. Feng Jixing said confidently, the 300,000 elite soldiers from Seven Seas City are all in my hands. They'll be enough to guard Lingnan. Moreover, quite a number of the commanders from the Seven Seas City army have become my trusted subordinates. You don't have to worry about this. That's good. Just then, a young general walked over with a wine glass in his hand. He had 3 golden stars on his collar and was a commander. He smiled respectfully and said, Prince Xen, why have you come out? Our brothers are waiting for you to drink. I'll be right there. Feng Jixing laughed out loud and said, Wei Chou, let me introduce him to you. This young general is Qin Xiaoli, the son of Qin Chong, the commander of the Seven Seas City's Zhanghe army. Ever since Commander Qin Chong died in battle, he has taken over as the commander of the Zhanghe army. Although he's young, he's a talented general who can hold his own. When Qin Xiaoli saw Wei Chou, his eyes lit up. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, I, Qin Xiaoli, pay my respects to Duke Wei. Commander Qin, there's no need to stand on ceremony. Wei Chou returned the Empire's military salute and said, Prince Xen has such a young and capable general under you. It seems that my worries are a little unnecessary. Feng Jixing said, Commander Qin, you can go back and drink first. I'll be back after chatting a little more with Wei Chou. Yes, Prince Xen. Come quickly. Go ahead. Feng Jixing turned around and his smiling face was replaced with a solemn expression. He said, Wei Chou, there's still something I need you to do in Lingdong province this time around. What is it? We've received a secret report saying that a farmer saw Princess Xi in the fields of Lingdong province. She's imprisoned in a huge crystal and is unconscious. What? Princess Xi? Wei Chou stood up abruptly and said, This? How is this possible? Didn't they say that Princess Xi is dead? From the looks of it, Princess Xi isn't dead. Feng Jixing muttered to himself and said, I can't sense Yu's aura in the Crimson Abyss anymore. He should have entered a state of deep sleep. There are only 2 people in this world who can awaken you. One is Her Highness Yin, but she's no longer around. The other is Princess Xi. As long as we can find Princess Xi, we'll be able to awaken you. Princess Xi is most likely with the devil race. Go and ask around. I understand. Feng Jixing nodded and a gleam of light shot out from his eyes. He said, I also want to ask Tang Xiaoxi why she would be so ruthless to kill Her Highness Qin Yin. Chapter 620. To the north of Tongtian province, after crossing an invisible sky curtain, all living things came back to life. Demon cities towered between the mountains and valleys. Pedestrians came and went in an endless stream. There were winged hunters out hunting and human farmers with hoes on their shoulders. In the past few years, the demon race had constantly migrated from Tongtian province and Lingdong province, and humans moved to Tongtian Gorge. Now this endless gorge had become a place where the demon race and humans lived together. Half a year ago, the Demon King issued the Holy Demon Code, drawing up a treaty between the demon race and humans. No demon race could attack humans without permission, and no human race could attack the demon race without permission. Since then, the Tongtian Gorge, which was like spring all year round, had become a fertile field flourishing day by day. Chengdu, a splendid capital city, stood between the mountains on the east side of Tongtian Gorge. A large number of high-level demon soldiers were stationed here, and there were even dozens of temporary sentry camps set up 10 miles away from Chengdu. Cavalry came and went constantly, and the earth-shaking roars of the armor demons could be heard from one side of the gorge. A cool breeze blew past, causing his cloak to flutter. Qianfeng wore a golden cloak, his hand on the sword at his waist. His starry eyes watched the demon race training in the gorge, and he couldn't help but sigh. Beside him, Lian Fu said, "Marshal, why are you sighing?" Qianfeng pointed at the tens of thousands of armor demons training in the gorge. Can such strong shields and sharp blades really block the humans' magic crystal cannons? Lian Fu nodded and muttered, "We have to take it step by step. Marshal, this subordinate has already sent some high-level gods who are proficient in human dialects into the territory of Lanyan City. As long as there is a chance, we will definitely obtain some technical information about the magic crystal cannons. If we can also master the magic crystal cannons, why should we fear the Empire? The Empire is growing stronger day by day. The Iha nation has been destroyed, and the god race will be the Empire's #1 enemy. The Empire is also our only enemy on this continent." Qianfeng rubbed his temples, looking a little tired. "Is there any news of Lin Muyu?" "Yes." Lian Fu cupped his fists and said, "After Yaoji bewitched the witch Tang Xiaoxi in Bailing City and successfully killed Qin Yin, Lin Muyu rushed to the Scarlet Abyss. When she saw the remains of Qin Yin, she was very sad and destroyed herself in the Scarlet Abyss. Her body turned into stone, and now she has become a stone statue sealed in the mountains. Marshal, you don't have to worry about her." Sigh. Qianfeng was at a loss. Lin Muyu loved Qin Yin very much, and I also fell in love with Qin Yin at first sight, but I couldn't stop the Divine Emperor and the Sacred Master's plan, and could only watch as Tang Xiaoxi killed Qin Yin. Am I not fit to talk about feelings with humans? No, Marshal, you don't have to blame yourself. You are the Marshal of the God race and bear the future of the God race. Naturally, you can't let your emotions affect your decisions. Let's go check on the Demoness. Yes. The two warhorses galloped towards the divine capital. Not long after, they arrived at the main hall. However, Qianfeng and Lian Fu didn't enter the hall. Instead, they went around the door and came to the rock behind the hall. A group of guards saluted them. The moss-covered rock slowly opened up to reveal a secret door. Qianfeng and Lian Fu went straight in. After entering the secret room, a high-ranked demon held a torch and led the way. He respectfully said, "Marshal, His Majesty the Divine Emperor and the Sacred Master are also here. Oh, that's for the best." Twisting and turning until they reached the depths of the mountain, the front suddenly opened up. They saw stone statues that were several meters tall standing in the surroundings. Each of their faces were fierce and lifelike, just like a demon god descending to the world. It was said that these stone statues were the heroes of the ancient god race. At least that was what the ancient book said. Therefore, these demon gods naturally became the totem of the god race. Surrounded by dozens of totems, there was a huge azure crystal in the center of the hall. It was 10 meters tall, and there were streams of fiery red energy surging within it. One could vaguely see a graceful girl imprisoned in the ice crystal. The fiery red energy seeped out along the ice crystal, and then was absorbed by a strange tube and sent to the other side of the mountain. Two people stood under the crystal. One was the Divine Emperor, and the other was the heavily injured Sacred Master. The Sacred Master was sitting in a chair carried by two high-ranked demon soldiers. "Marshal Qianfeng has arrived." "Oh." The Divine Emperor turned around and put on a gentle smile. "Qianfeng, you've arrived?" "Greetings, Your Majesty." Qianfeng and Lian Jin knelt together and stood up. Qianfeng looked at Tang Xiaoxi in the crystal and said, "Your Majesty, how's the refinement of the demon lady's power?" "Seems to be going well." The Divine Emperor smiled faintly, his eagle-like eyes gleaming with greed. "No, it's far from enough. Tang Xiaoxi is a demoness fated by the heavens. The demonic energy in her body is endless, and only this kind of demonic energy can continue to nourish the demonic energy in the insectoid hive, allowing it to incubate the savage beasts from the other dimension for us. Unfortunately, the degree of refinement is far from enough. We can only use less than 10% of Tang Xiaoxi's demonic energy." "Is that so?" Qianfeng raised his head and stared at Tang Xiaoxi, only to see her eyebrows tightly furrowed as if she was enduring a great deal of pain. The energy in her body was slowly being sucked out. One could well imagine the pain. However, Qianfeng had been through hundreds of battles and had already honed a heart of steel. He said calmly, As long as Tang Xiaoxi's mind is not clear, her ability to restrain the power in her body will become weaker and weaker. This powerful demonic power will definitely be used by us. Yes. The Divine Emperor nodded. Sacred Master, how's the mind manipulation art? Sage Master sat on the chair and slowly said, Your Majesty, my ability is still not enough to restrain Tang Xiaoxi. Her psyche power and heart power are too strong, and the demonic power in her body far surpasses mine. I still need some time. Very well. Mind manipulation art. Qianfeng was surprised. Sacred Master, are you trying to control Tang Xiaoxi's mind? That's right. The corners of the Sage Master's mouth curled up, revealing a rather ferocious smile as he said, Tang Xiaoxi has the 9 tails of destiny. Her tyrannical demonic energy is enough to move unhindered through the 3 realms and be unparalleled in the world. If this kind of power can be used by our god race, its effect is no less than 100 giant flying snakes and 100,000 armored demons. Qianfeng was startled. He wanted to say something but stopped himself. The Demon King smiled. Qianfeng, I know you are kind, but the future of the celestial race is in our hands. Now is not the time to be merciful. Tang Xiaoxi is a human. It would be great if we could use her. Oh, is there any news from the Empire? Yes. Qianfeng respectfully said, the humans have conferred 3 kings. Qin Wang Lin Muyu Xen Wang Feng Jixing, and Zhong Wang Qinyan will rule the world together. However, Lin Muyu has turned into a rotten rock in the Crimson Blood Abyss. There is nothing to worry about. Now we need to guard against the famous General Feng Jixing. In addition, Lin Muyu's subordinate Wei Chou has been conferred the title of Duke Wei. He will soon enter the Lingdong province to deal with the celestial race. We have to guard against him. Wei Chou has been following Lin Muyu for a long time. He is well versed in the art of war and has a strategic mind. This person must be eliminated. The Demon King couldn't help but smile. Sage Sovereign, did you hear that? Quickly practice your mind manipulation skill. We need Witch Tang Xiaoxi's power. Once she is used by the celestial race, her first mission is to head to the Lingdong province and kill Duke Wei Chou in front of everyone. This will chill the morale of the empire and cause us to collapse. Yes, this subordinate will definitely practice harder. Go do what you need to do. Yes. After everyone dispersed, only the Nephilim King was left standing under the ice crystal. He stared fixedly at the unconscious Tang Xiaoxi in the ice crystal. Suddenly, the Nephilim King's voice became gentle and his face was filled with a demonic smile as he said, Witch Tang Xiaoxi. Hi, humans call me Nephilim King, but I call you Witch. Our fate is really predestined. My good daughter, quickly wake up and conquer the world for your father. Reclaim the Middle-earth. In Lanyan City, the brilliant starlight shone down on the city. In a small courtyard of the Imperial Guards, a beautiful young lady stared at the swaying pomegranate tree in a daze. Her eyes were filled with indescribable loneliness and helplessness. The last battle between the celestial race and the humans was a year ago, but there was no news from the Tongtian Gorge. It was as if they had forgotten about her. Your Highness Ning, Prince Xen Feng Jixing has come to visit, a maid said at the side. All right, General Feng, please come to the hall for a chat. Yes. Feng Jixing wasn't the only one who came. Duke Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Situ Shua, Fingxi Siyu and the others were also there. General Feng, is there news of my father? Feng Ning asked hopefully. No. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, Please forgive me, Your Highness Ning. This time around I'm not here to send you to the Tongtian Gorge. Instead I'm here to send you to the Lingdong province's Winterfrost City. Oh, Winterfrost City? Feng Ning was stunned. Why are you sending me to Winterfrost City? Because Winterfrost City is closer to the Immortal's capital. Wei Chou smiled faintly. We're worried that Your Highness is homesick. Therefore Wei Chou will personally escort Your Highness Ning to Winterfrost City. This way it'll be more convenient for you to travel to and from the Tongtian Gorge. Perhaps Your Highness Ning will even be able to see your father, whom you've been thinking about day and night. Feng Ning instantly felt a chill in her heart. Although she was young and inexperienced, she had been imprisoned in Lanyan City for 3 years. How could she not know what kind of mutual deception was? Now that Feng Jixing and Wei Chou had said this, Feng Ning immediately understood. She was only going to Winterfrost City as bait. Once the devil race learned that she was in Winterfrost City, they would definitely send an army to attack. Then the devil race would definitely be greeted by countless magic crystal cannons in the Longdan army camp. This was not a caring and considerate act, but a vicious plan to destroy the devil race. No, I'm used to life in Longyan City. I don't want to leave anymore, Feng Ning said. That's not up to your highness. Feng Jixing slowly stood up and said, we'll set off tomorrow morning. Your Highness Ninger will follow Duke Wei and the army to Winterfrost City. Yes. Everyone cupped their fists and Feng Ninger could only smile bitterly. Then where's Commander Yu? She suddenly asked. Chapter 621. Howl. In the Crimson Abyss, a dragon's howl came from a crack in the rocks deep within the mountain. The space was slowly torn open and Acatosaurus poked its head out. Its claws quickly scratched at the edge of the crack, widening the crack. Then it curled up its body and moved out. It was dark inside the mountain. There was not much space to begin with, and its arrival made the place even more crowded. Howl. Another soft howl sounded. Acatosaurus coiled its body and hugged a stone statue in its arms. The statue was in the posture of a fist landing on the ground. It was the same posture that Lin Muyu was in when she was in a deep sleep. Acatosaurus sensed the connection between their souls and rubbed its head intimately against the stone. However, the stone was cold and did not respond at all. As if it felt that the place was too crowded, Acatosaurus suddenly waved its claws, turning the rocks into gravel and throwing them into the space crack behind it. It wanted to create a spacious living environment for its master. Perhaps in this world only Acatosaurus thought that Lin Muyu, who had turned into stone, was still alive. Howl. After digging out a tunnel that was several meters long, Acatosaurus cried out to its master happily, but Lin Muyu still did not respond. Acatosaurus was not discouraged and continued to dig. Soon the tunnel extended all the way up to the base of the mountain. It was nearly 100 meters long. Acatosaurus happily dug a hole, twisting its body like a loach that had finally entered the mud after many months. Pieces of gravel fell and hit the poor stone that Lin Muyu had turned into. Finally, when Acatosaurus dug out the tunnel, the night sky shone a ray of starlight on the stone that Lin Muyu had turned into. Suddenly, a stream of astral power surged out of the stone, as if responding to the stars in the sky. Howl. Acatosaurus returned to its master's side, coiled its body around its master's body and fell into a deep sleep. Half a month later, in the northeastern region of the High Sky Province, Sunji Mountain, galloping sounds of horses' hooves could be heard, and the Prince Exan army's war flag fluttered in the wind. This was the final battle between the Empire and the Iha country on land. Feng Jixing had personally led 200,000 elite troops here, and in the mountains were the troops left behind by the Iha country. Qin Huan was leading several 10,000 elite troops. Qin Huan had been waiting for his father's orders all this while. It was a pity that Qin Yi had already been defeated and had fled to the sea. How could he still care about this son of his? The Sun Halberd Mountain was a mountain range that was 20 li long. The mountain paths were winding and dangerous, making it easy to defend and difficult to attack. The war flags of the Iha Empire fluttered all over the mountain, and from the looks of it, there seemed to be 100,000 soldiers at the foot of the mountain. Feng Jixing gripped his wind cutter and urged his horse to run around the foot of the mountain. His gaze was fixed on every angle and terrain of the mountain. Behind him, Zhang Wei, Qin Xiaoli, Luo Yu and the rest followed closely behind. Sir, do you understand? Zhang Wei asked. I understand. Then when do we attack the mountain? There's no hurry to attack the mountain. Feng Jixing said calmly. Qin Huan's men have been guarding this place for 1 year, and there shouldn't be much rations left. Pass down my orders to surround the Sun Halberd Mountain and cut off the water source. In less than half a month, Qin Huan will definitely lead his army down the mountain. When that time comes, we'll just have to greet them with the magic crystal cannons. Yes. On the Sun Halberd Mountain, Qin Huan was also leading a group of subordinates on a patrol. He looked at the Empire's camp from afar, and the more he looked, the colder his heart became. Qin Huan and the others knew that this time around, Feng Jixing's main forces had come personally. They weren't the motley crew that the Empire's officials had sent to suppress the bandits. The Empire had been busy attacking Long Qianlin and Ding Shi's armies and had neglected Qin Huan's remaining troops. Now that Feng Jixing had finally taken the time to personally come and annihilate them. It's over. Qin Huan mumbled. Your Highness. An old general cupped his fists and said, The troops Feng Jixing is leading have at least 200,000 men, but they've come from afar and are all exhausted. I heard that the empire has set the national policy of 3 kings ruling the world in Lanyan City. As Prince Exen, Feng Jixing has always been the #1 person in the empire after Lin Muyu's disappearance. This time around he'll definitely be a proud soldier. Why don't you pass down the order for the 3 armies to get ready? Once the sky turns dark, we'll charge down from the high ground and catch them off guard. We'll charge out of the encirclement with our valuables, seize the transport ships along the coast of Linghan City, and head to the dragon-shaped island to meet up with the great commander. What do you think? Qin Huan took a deep breath. His face was full of confusion as he said, "Old general, don't you know our situation? Ever since we separated from our father a year ago, we haven't had any reinforcements. We've also been lacking in rations, medicine, water, and so on. In this year, more than 20,000 people have died of illness, and there are tens of thousands of deserters. Now we only have less than 50,000 men in our hands. We've also consumed more than half of our war horses, leaving us with less than 20,000. The army that fought against Yao Yuan half a year ago had also almost used up all the embryos of the Heavenly Book. How are we going to fight against Feng Jixing's elite troops now?" But the old general pondered and said, "If we don't try to fight, I'm afraid we won't even have a chance to survive. Feng Jixing is much more powerful than we imagined. He'll definitely cut off our water supply and force us to fight with thirst. By then, we'll definitely be defeated. We might even end up being annihilated." "Please don't worry, Your Highness," another captaincy said in a low voice. "We still have a chance of survival if we fight our way out of the encirclement. Your Highness, please give the order," another high-ranking general said. The group of more than 20 generals knelt down and said, "We're willing to follow Your Highness and fight to the death." Qin Huan was trembling all over. His face was full of confusion and fear as he said, "Feng Jixing is so powerful. We don't have a chance. Iha Nation is finished. Don't say anything more. Drag it out as long as you can. It's always good to live for a few more days." Sigh. An old general gritted his teeth and walked forward. Suddenly, he took advantage of Qin Huan's unguarded moment and struck him from behind. Bam! Qin Huan instantly fainted. "Old General Luo, what are you doing?" The group of generals was dumbfounded. The old general held Qin Huan under his armpit and said, "Your Highness has been scared out of his wits. We must protect Your Highness and fight our way out of here. We must protect the bloodline of Commander Qin Yi. Everyone follow my order. When the moon rises, immediately launch an attack. If we take the initiative to attack, we might be able to catch Feng Jixing off guard." Yes. After nightfall, torches were suddenly lit up on the mountain. Countless soldiers in Iha Nation's military uniforms charged down from the mountain. Their war horses galloped at full speed. Immediately, Feng Jixing's front line was caught off guard. At least 1,000 people were killed. In the camp at the foot of the mountain, Zhang Wei looked at the torches in the distance and said, "What a good Qin Huan. He actually dared to break out." Oh. Feng Jixing squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "Qin Huan was already scared out of his wits. He was forced to break out of the encirclement. Didn't you see that Qin Huan was carried down the mountain by an old general?" Luo Yu asked, "Commander, should we attack with the magic crystal cannons?" "Oh, don't be hasty." Feng Jixing raised his hand and said, "Use the arrow boxes and ballistae to shoot for a while. Let Qin Huan and the others at the front pass. Then use the magic crystal cannons to intercept the troops at the back. Order people to spread the word that those who surrender will not be killed. Hand over their weapons and escort them back to Sunset City to be reorganized. Most of these people are just soldiers who fight for the army's pay. There is no need to kill them all." "Yes. Then, are we going to let Qin Huan go?" "Yes." The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up as he smiled. A mere battle formation scared him to the point of losing his mind. "Let's return this kind of trash to Qin Yi. Once Qin Yi is dead and Qin Huan takes over, that will be the time for us to attack Dragon Island." As he spoke, a cold glint flashed past Feng Jixing's eyes. The Imperial Army had crossed the sea to attack Dragon Island but suffered a crushing defeat. This was a humiliation that was hard to wash away for Feng Jixing. He had to raise Dragon Island to appease the hatred in his heart. However, there were famous generals like Long Qianlin and Ding Xi on Dragon Island. It was truly a thorny problem. They wouldn't be able to take it down in a short period of time. The sound of the arrow boxes and ballistas springs rang out incessantly. The sharp arrows seemed to have eyes of their own, only killing the middle and low-ranking officers while letting Qin Huan and the others off. When Qin Huan's main forces arrived, the magic crystal cannons were finally activated. Many purple mushroom clouds soared up into the sky from the mountain range. The destructive prowess was extremely astonishing, and in the blink of an eye, the small mountain path had turned into a living hell. After a round of bombardment, how could the Iha country soldiers still dare to go down the mountain? All of them were dumbfounded. Just then a person rode up the mountain holding onto a wind cutter. It was Feng Jixing. His golden battle robes fluttered and Feng Jixing raised his battle blade and bellowed, "I'm the Empire's Prince Xen Feng Jixing. You guys were originally the Empire's soldiers, but you were bewitched by Qin Yi and became rebels. I'll give you a chance now. Put down your weapons and accept the Empire's army to take you in again. We'll spare your lives, but those who resist will definitely have their 9 generations annihilated." All the soldiers chose to surrender. It would be too foolish to resist now. After all, survival was the most important thing. As for moral integrity, they could just say it to others and not take it seriously. Before dawn, over 40,000 soldiers from the Iha country came down the mountain to surrender. Feng Jixing then reorganized them one by one and scattered them into the Empire's army. With that, the Iha country's influence had officially withdrawn from the stage of the continent's struggle for hegemony. At the same time, to the north of Winterfrost City, a new metal protective wall was being built. Wei Chou, Situ Sin, and the others were personally supervising the construction. The entire metal protective wall was 500 li long, spanning across the entire Lingdong province's northern territory. It was connected to the sea in the east and the Cloud Refinement mountain range in the west. Every 5 li, a magic crystal cannon would be set up to defend against the demonic race's invasion. This was the Empire's new war plan. With the metal protective wall in Lingdong province as the defensive line and the demonic race's princess Feng Ning as the bait, they would attract the demonic race to attack and deplete their strength. In Lanyan City, Qin Yan was in charge and Su'er was in charge. It was as if the entire empire was entering a new era of prosperity. Chapter 622. Time flew by and in the blink of an eye for years had passed. The mountains in the Blood Abyss were continuous, weathered by wind and rain, and had long been covered with a thick layer of vegetation. Moreover, the spiritual energy in the mountains was vigorous and many rare herbs grew. Cloud deer, badgers and other animals traversed the mountains, making this forest a treasure land for hunters and medicine masters. However, there was a legend that said there was an immortal in the mountains. The sun and moon shone together and he was immortal. He was proficient in spiritual spells and had many transformations. However, no one had ever seen such an immortal. It was the rainy season again. Rainwater dripped down into the forest and flowed along the green leaves into the grass, moistening the soil. On the cliff between the mountains, a figure could be faintly seen climbing up the cliff. It was a white-haired old man, carrying a small bamboo basket on his back, which contained a bunch of herbs. The old man's face was slightly red. He used the shovel to carefully poke at the roots of the herbs, afraid that he would hurt the roots and affect the medicinal properties of the herbs. About 10 meters below the cliff, a girl about 4 or 5 years old in green clothes looked up at the old man. Her big watery eyes sparkled. She cupped her hands around her mouth and said softly, "Grandpa, be careful." The old man laughed. "Mengyi, don't run around. Grandpa will come down after I pick this dragon grass." "Be careful." The girl pouted as if she was not satisfied with her grandpa taking such a risk to pick herbs. In the blink of an eye, the dragon grass was pulled out by the old man. He held the protruding part of the rock with one hand and carefully threw the dragon grass into the bamboo basket with the other. Then he walked down the cliff step by step. However, the cliff was very slippery. About 3 meters above the ground, the old man suddenly missed a step and fell. Bang! Fortunately, there was grass below, but the old man was still hurt by the rocks in the grass. He gritted his teeth and cried out in pain. The girl hurried forward and supported the old man. "Grandpa, where are you hurt? Where are you hurt?" Seeing the girl's worried look, the old man endured the pain and laughed. He caressed the girl's braid and said, "Grandpa is fine. I'm just teasing you. Mengyi, let's go. This dragon grass can be sold for a good price in the medicine shops in Bailing City." Maybe 20 Jin coins. Then I can buy a lot of candied fruits for you. Woo, the girl nodded. Her big eyes seemed to be able to speak. She held the old man's hand and walked out of the blood abyss step by step. 100 Ridge City was rebuilt to the south of the ruins 50 miles away from the blood red abyss. It had been reduced from a famous city with a population of 3 million to a small city with a population of less than 200,000. Most of the residents had been scattered to Sunset City and Xiangyang City. This was also the reason why Feng Jixing had chosen Sunset City as the capital of Lingnan. In the rebuilt 100 Ridge City there were groups of merchants. Before sunset the next day the old man and the girl appeared in the city. The old man's name was Li Shu. He was a Jianghu doctor who collected and sold herbs for a living. He had a granddaughter in his old age, so he named her Li Mingye, which came from the dream leaf grass. Li Mingye held her grandpa's hand tightly. She knew that the dragon grass in the bamboo basket on her grandpa's back would be the family's income for the whole year. Her mother had fallen ill after giving birth to her and was bedridden for 5 years. Her grandpa was old and did not have much time to collect herbs. Moreover, her grandpa's alchemy skills were not good enough to extract the medicinal essence of the dragon grass to refine medicine. Therefore he could only sell the herbs to make money. This dragon grass was the first valuable herb they had collected in the past 3 months. South Town Pharmacy, a pharmacy with only a shopkeeper. It was also one of the dozens of pharmacies in the small city. In the past, Li Shu would sell the herbs he collected from here. Oh, Uncle Li is here. The shopkeeper of the pharmacy was a fat man. His weight was at least 150 kilograms, making his 1.6-meter body look very plump and round. His eyes swept across Li Shu's bamboo basket and instantly lit up. He smiled and said, "Are you here to sell medicine and rice again?" "Yes." Li Shu put down the bamboo basket and carefully took out the dragon grass. He said, "The roots of this dragon grass are plump. It should have been growing for a few years. Shopkeeper Lu, give me a good price." "Oh, you picked this in the bloody abyss, right? I heard that there are swift wolves in the bloody abyss. It's not easy for them to not tear your old bones to shreds." Shopkeeper Lu casually took the dragon grass and said, "The medicinal essence is indeed good. The medicinal essence is full. How about this? I'll give you 10 Jinin coins." "What? Only 10 Jinin coins?" Li Shu was stunned. He said, "Shopkeeper Lu, the dragon grass that Virtue Fortune Pharmacy bought half a month ago was 20 Jinin coins each. Moreover, those dragon grass are definitely not as full as this one. You see, I'm here to earn money to feed my family and cure my illnesses. I'm here to sell my herbs so that I don't have to pay the transaction fees. I have a family of old and young, so please don't cheat me. If that's the case, I might as well sell my herbs at the trading firm." "Humph, old man, you really know how to talk." Shopkeeper Lu's eyes were filled with impatience. He said, Here are 30 Jinin coins. That should be enough for this dragon grass, right?" After counting the Jinin coins, Li Shu's eyes were instantly filled with smiles. He took out one of the Jinin coins and said, "Shopkeeper Lu, look, I want to buy a roasted chicken for my granddaughter. Can you help me convert this Jinin coin into 100 silver yin coins? Thank you." So troublesome. Shopkeeper Lu took out a money bag impatiently. It was heavy with 100 silver yin coins. He said, "Here, take it. Hurry up and leave. Don't be an eyesore in front of my shop." "Thank you,